Okay, so now we'll get on with our project. We're with the what we're going to be doing as far as the milling goes. So this picture kind of depicts what we're trying to do. We're milling into some 1" by 1" aluminum. Hopefully you can see that, that drawing. What we have is we're going to be boring into that. We're going to be putting a bearing in here, a 5/8 bearing. We're going to have a little housing, a stainless steel housing, and that the bearing will sit into. And then we'll have bearings on the top, a cap that comes down, and a set screw that holds the cap in place. So that'll be the way that the jig slides across the table surface easily and without too much effort. So we'll have these all up and down the 1" aluminum stock that I have is 1" by 1", and we've got that set up in the a piece of it. We're doing a sample right now. I'm doing a sample test to see how it works, and so we're getting that set up now, and I'll show you that in just a second. What I wanted to show you is what we've done here, and I don't know if others will frown on it or not, but what we've done is we've taken our R8 collets that go into the bridge port, and I've actually taken and glued this bit into this collet. And the reason for that is that I want to get reference points and be able to change out bits, one right after the other, and know that it's not going to move. And so I've actually glued it to one side of the collet, so when it squeezes in, it's going to even out, and that way this won't slide out at all. See, right now I can't slide that out. I'd have to drive it out, and I've done that with every bit that I have one in the machine, but I have 3 setups, and I want to stay in one place and do all 3 setups, drill through them. And I've got probably about I haven't counted it yet, but let's see, 7, 14, 28, 4, 8, 8, 16, so about 54 holes to prep and to seat. So this is a radius end here. So after I drill, I run through the aluminum with a 3/4 inch mill. I run it down to within about a 1/16 of the bottom of the 1" square stock. Then I'll take this 5/8 radius bit, which is the same diameter as the bearing, and run it down through with leaving just enough surface area to keep that bearing from dropping through. And then the reason I do the 3/4 inch drill first, mill first, is that we're going to put in a 3/4 inch, it's about 5/8 tall by 3/4 diameter stainless steel sleeve that we're going to slip down into the base of that, and then we're going to put our bearing into that stainless steel sleeve so that the surface is harder. I don't want the bearing to be running against the aluminum surface. And so then we'll have a stainless steel cap that we're putting on the top of that with some small bearings that run around the top of the 5/8 bearing all the way around, with the cap sitting on top of those bearings. So that way that 5/8 bearing will have a free turning radius without any restrictions, and less friction on it. So that's what we're going to try to accomplish. The reason that I have this drill bit in here is because then I have to drill through to a certain depth for tapping out that 1" material down to a certain depth for the set screw that I'm going to put in there, that's going to plug everything up and hold the cap on top of the stainless steel sleeve and the bearings. So each one of these processes, I've set the parts in here, and so now all I have to do is do the math between the difference between each bed, and then I can bring it down to where I need to and back up. I've got the distances calced here on a piece of paper, how far I need to take each one. And so that should help the process move along a little bit faster rather than doing one process all the way down and then trying to find my centers coming back up. The length of the pieces that I'm doing vary. We'll have two pieces that'll be a little bit over 7 foot, close to 8. And then we have two pieces that are going to be about 4 foot. So we want to have that surface, that bearing surface all the way down, so that it constantly has contact with that bed with the door on it, and so it supports well. So that's what we're up to today, and this evening I'll take you over and show you my setup on the Bridgeport. So I've taken the vise off the bed. I cleaned up my bed, and then I set a back piece, this piece here, and clamped it. I clamped it in 3 spots, and then right here I put another bar behind it and clamped that up against it. And I've done that in 3 spots all the way down. And what that's doing is going to prevent pressure, side pressure, so that this doesn't move. I trammed this in, and we're in the full length of the whole feed. I think it's like close to 40 inches or something. We're off 2.5 thousandths, which is fine for me. That's less than a sheet of paper. And so basically what we're trying to do is line up and hit this 1 inch stock dead center. This is my 3/4 inch cutter. And we've already laid out a line here that we want to cut to. This is going to be the end of our stock, and then we'll feed this direction and make our holes at every 6 inches and for our bearing. We've got a bed of aluminum down at the bottom here, and basically the reason for that is because when we run the radius head through there, it has to go a certain extent past the 1 inch material. So I had to put some material in here so I wouldn't hit the bed of my machine, my mill, and that way we'll have a nice cut in there. So that's what we got up. That's the setup that I have. I've centered this already. I've got this set up to the end that I want. We've scribed a line here on this bracket so that we know where to bring our material when we bring it in. And then we've got these 2 clamps that will hold the material, the part that we're going to be drilling, onto the bed. So we have our DRO all zeroed out. So we're on center. We've got where this cutter begins to start to make a mark on the face of this material. We've got that zeroed out. And so now what we're going to do is go ahead and begin to cut into this sample piece. So we can do a sample part to make sure that all my calcs are right and everything works before we go on and drill a whole mess of holes. So we'll do this one little piece here, go back and test everything out, make sure it's working right, and then we'll proceed with the rest of it. So let's go ahead and cut into this. We're going to cut down on my drawing here. The depth of the 3/4 inch end mill is 0.94 to 0.95, so we'll give it a thousandths variance. if I can get away from you. Let me get some WD. Okay, so we got our hole down. Now we're going to change out this part, put in the 5/8 inch ball mill, and go down to the proper depth on that. And we'll have to set up with a probably an indicator because I'm going to have to raise this bed because the bit isn't as long as this one is, and I need room to change the bits. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to set up an indicator so I know where that ball mill is, and be able to bring myself back down to where I need to be. So let me go ahead and I'll pull out the two parts, show you the setup when I'm done. Okay, so we've made our sample part. This is what we've made. You can see the bearing on this side. It slides in and out. On this side is our set screw that's holding the bearings in place. And we have a cover that's holding the smaller bearings down on top of this bigger bearing. And so we'll have these every 6 inches along the perimeter of our jig that we're making, so that this will give it mobility, so that we can roll it across that pin router table without any problem. So now we're going to get started on the ridge port. We've figured out our dimensions, and we're going to start to work on drilling all these holes and getting them ready to set the bearings. So since I've already got this set up and it's centered, we're going to do this, drill it first with this. This is a 49/64 drill bit, and that's really for the tapped hole that we're going to use. So we're going to go down to point 22525 on the on our DRO. Now we have to take it all the way back off to get it off the steel rod and then shove it back in, so it's not as fast as just feeding it forward with the collet like you normally would. I'm going to have to tap this back through the collet here. So I have a hole in this tabletop that's just big enough for the rod, but not big enough for the sleeve. So I just set this in here, drop it down, and there we go. Now we have our sleeve. So I still have to deburr the edges, but it's not nearly as bad as if I hadn't had that rod in there. Okay, so this is our 1x1 aluminum that we've drilled, and we have 3 different drills here. They're not really drilled, this is milled actually. We used a 5/8 ball cutter to cut down and get our shape down in the base of this. Then we used a 3/4 inch end mill to cut down for our sleeve that we just cut. And you can see that right here, you can see the line. I'll bring you up closer. Oops. You can see that line right there. That's where the 3/4 mil started. This is a, I forget what size drill it is. It's for a 7/8 tap. So basically we're going to tap this down to this shoulder for our 7/8 set screw that's going to hold the caps in. And we're using the little caps are all stainless steel. And so they set down and hold the bearings in. The steel sleeve that we just made, they hold the bearings in that, and then there's a 3/4 inch cap that fits this diameter that basically presses down on the cap that fits inside the stainless steel sleeve, and of course our set screw that sets in this. We'll show you more as we go along. So Dixon's got all these holes drilled in this part. And we're ready to start tapping. He's got a couple of holes tapped here already. You can see those. But he's got quite a few more to finish. So we'll be getting that done today too. This one here, we've got it all drilled and tapped, and you can see the little bearings sticking out the bottom of this all the way down the line. So we're just about ready for this. All this is drilled, tapped, and ready to go. You can see the bearings in here. We didn't put the sleeves in yet. I probably prematurely put those bearings in there, but they're all sitting where they're supposed to be, and this rod is done. Okay, we're back at the lathe, and I wanted to show you my new setup. Our stock got a little bit too short to pull it out from the back, so now I'm running everything from the front and measuring each piece. And actually it's faster than using the stop that I was using before. So I'll take you down to the part and I'll show you what I do. So basically I still have the shaft that's in the center that helps me from knurling that too much. And I just measure this to 40. And so now I can make my cut this off, and then I can just pull it back out, cut the next piece, and cut the third piece, and once I have 3 pieces on the shaft here, then I take it over, knock those off, and put it back in. So we'll just run through this real quick and we'll show you how we do it. we've gotten all the way through, but I want the inside edge to be cleaned up. So I just push a little bit further, clean that edge up. Then we turn off the machine, unlock our chuck, pull her out, remeasure. Oops. I have to pull it out just a little bit. There we go. Chuck her down. Start my next cut. Okay, let's clean up that edge. Let's see. Now these that are already cut, I'll have to clean those all up. Okay, so once you get 3 on there, then I take the rod out of the center and I knock these off. So I got a hole in a table over here that I use that for. There we go. We got 3 of them done. So that goes quite a bit faster than the way I was doing it, where I was pulling it out from the back and then cutting one at a time and knocking them off. So this is going to help me get a little bit more efficient, since I got quite a few of them to do, 50 to 60 of them to cut. So thank you. This is the progress we're making on our woodworker area's loft. You can see the I-beam is bolted up there in that corner. See, the bolts are, that I-beam is all bolted in. Now the reason that we have this one above the other is for the crane. So that way the crane can still move freely to lift our doors within this area. So that's the reason for that. So we got this all the way built all the way around. And we're working now on the next I-beam, and Ian is welding these in. We've got these 1/4 inch. They're about 4x4 angle irons that we're welding on the. We've notched the I-beam, and he's welding them right onto the tab here. So you can see the tab he's got left over here. And he's welding this all onto one piece. This is exactly what we need from end to end. Very precise that he has there, and it'll just barely squeeze into the inset of the other I-beam. So basically, this inset here, those will fit right up against this, and we'll drill through this to bolt those angles in on both sides. So there's Ian down there doing his welding, getting those tabs on. So by the end of the day, we should have this I-beam up. Okay, so we've got further progress on our loft. Now we have our last I-beam up. He's actually got it bolted. You can see on this side, we have our bolts into the flange on one side. So now we have 4 sides. Now I can go get my floor joists and put those in, and we'll be set. Floor joists and plywood. So we're putting in a new structure here. This is for our compressor and for our dust collection system. So the compressor will be below, the dust collection system will be above, and it'll filter into a barrel down here. So this is under construction right now. Okay, so this is the crane that we were talking about earlier in our back shop. This is a vacuum system suction cup. And so basically you put it down on the door. This raises and lowers. So we'd be able to come down here on a pallet. The suction cup would join itself to the door. And we could bring the door up. And we could swing this either to this side of our door machine to load it, or if we were unloading, we could swing it all the way over here. And we could take off the door to stack it. So this is our new crane system, and it has its own vacuum system in here. It has a vacuum pump within it, within the unit, and so I thought I would have to connect it up to a vacuum pump. So I'd bought a vacuum pump at auction, and so that I could use it with this. Now I get to sell that because I don't need it, because this has its own vacuum system. Unless, of course, the one on the other shop, because I do have another crane over there, and that will be using to load the pin router. And that may require a vacuum pump. We'll find out. I haven't got that one hooked up yet. This one we do. So I'd like to show you the back side of the shop too. We've done some reorganization with that. Why don't you go ahead and pan to the back and show our shelving. We've moved a lot of our...
Oh! Got hit by the thing.
Watch out for the crane.
Can we take two on that one?
Okay. Okay, so we've moved this the racking into the back of the shop and reorganized things so that we have doors stacked in here. We moved a lot of our doors from our shipping and receiving that were taking up room there and moved them back in here. We've got some of our tools up there, you can see. But we have a lot more space here that we can use once we move our tools to their proper positions. So we got a lot going on here, a lot is getting done. It's kind of exciting to see things move forward. We've done most of the machining on the linear components to it and for the bearings, and now we're going to be assembling this. Got a lot of other things going on in the shop. We're going to hear some background noise.